All right, so welcome everyone to Shark Tank, Able Shark Tank 2022. We're so delighted to have you with us. I'm going to go ahead. My name is Helen Chen. I'm a research scientist in the Designing Education Lab in the Department of Mechanical Engineering here at Stanford, as well as a co-founder of the Integrative Learning Portfolio Lab in Stanford Career Education. As a member of the ABLE board, together with my fellow board members, Candace, Kevin, Tracy, so delighted that you're with us today for the 2022 ABLE Shark Tank. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kevin, who will actually be our MC and moderator for today.
We'll call that a loose term of MC and moderator, but hi everyone, I'm Kevin Kelly. I teach at San Francisco State University. And as George Washington said to the shark, I cannot tell a great white lie. I'm excited to be here with you all. And so here is how ABLE Shark Tank works. Each participant will use one or more Google Slides to give a brief pitch to our circling sharks. Then each shark will have 3 minutes to offer feedback and suggestions about the idea that they proposed. And then we also want this to be a feeding frenzy of ideas. And so you can share ideas in reactions and resources in the chat related to what everyone presents. So I will just encourage you all to be highly interactive. And to our fish, we're excited. Thanks in advance for jumping into the shark tank without a cage. So our 3 sharks today come from across the world. I understand Tracy just said UK, which means she's even farther east than normal. But Miko Nino is normally at UNC Pembroke, and so we'll be excited to hear from him. Candace Reynolds is at Boise State University in Idaho, not Iowa. And then Tracy Penny Light, normally in the country of Grenada, is now in the United Kingdom. She's circling the Atlantic Ocean like a hurricane and more, but we're excited to have these 3 veterans of ePortfolio work to share their wisdom with our fish. And maybe do any of you want to just say hi real quick before we get on to the fish?
I hope we're not going to have anyone walk the plank.
Uh-huh.
I have nothing clever to say.
Just very excited, looking forward to this. Good luck.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, our first Shark Tank pitch is from Dr. Regina Cannon and Gracie Williams at Tarrant County College District. Their hobbies include photography with a fisheye lens and surfing the Finternet. Dr. Cannon and Gracie, take it away. You have 3 minutes to swim with the sharks.
Thank you. Hello, sharks. My name is Dr. Regina Cannon. I'm with Tarrant County College District in Fort Worth, Texas. I'd like for you to meet 2 of my students. I want you to meet Miss Successful and Miss Getting It Together. Both of my students participated in the ePortfolio project last spring. Miss Successful was very successful because she saw the benefit in using ePortfolio. She knew that creating a marketable ePortfolio was the way to go. She showcased her skills, she captured her learning experience over time, and she captured her work experience. Now, Miss Getting It Together chose not to do the ePortfolio, but over time, she started to learn more about the ePortfolio. She worked with student clubs and her friends was all using it. So she now decided to get on board and be a part of the Trailblazers. So in taking a look at our ePortfolio for our district, we use it to connect with students through faculty and staff and students. Faculty will be the key component because they will teach students in their classes to use the ePortfolio, to design it, and to capture their learning over time. Students will also work with staff members that teach in those programs that are on the co-curricular side. where that they're working in their student clubs, career services, all of those components are the same. Now, in thinking about taking a look at our design, we have a one template design that is used across our college district. Faculty, co-curricular programs, and students use the same template. They capture 10 things. They take a look at a professional photo. They take a look at their interest statement. They also focus on their resume, their skills. They capture their achievements. They also talk about their educational goals as well as career goals. We also ask them to document the work they're doing within the community and any accomplishments that they see that are valuable. The big thing is that we ask them to document their student learning. And that means for every class that they participate in, we ask them to capture something that they're doing. One thing that we notice is that we are working with district assessment, where that we are capturing course assessment, the artifacts. We're making sure that we can document student learning. Our goal here at TCC is to make sure that every student that comes into our institution will have an opportunity to develop an e-portfolio and walk away with student learning. So Sharks, I want to thank you for listening to me, but is e-portfolio right for you? Two questions that I have are, do you think a one design template is good or valuable? And how can I get more faculty involved? Thank you again.
All right, Sharks, I'm going to turn it over to you. We know everything is bigger down in Texas, so that means you can take big bites as you give feedback on this idea from Tarrant County College District. I'm going to start with Pirate Captain Tracy.
Well, thank you so much for that pitch. I really enjoyed hearing about what you're doing at Tarrant Community College. I love the idea actually of making sure that every single student has the opportunity to document their learning. That I think sounds really, really powerful. In terms of getting faculty to buy in, maybe having conversations with colleagues about the one template design and opportunities that they might use in their own context to perhaps fill out one part of the template or get the students to document their learning in a way that's meaningful to their particular context. And I think the other thing is giving faculty the opportunity to see examples. So maybe Ms. Successful and Ms. Getting It Together can be your sort of showcase students who will maybe get on the road with you and help to convince your colleagues to join in.
Okay, thank you.
Mermaid Candace, you're up next.
Okay, I too like this idea. I really wish that all students in higher education would have an e-portfolio and have the opportunity to, reflect on the learning that they're doing and have a place to collect all that learning that you are providing with your design template. I, for one, think the one design is valuable, especially in emerging e-portfolio programs, because it provides a framework for people to start from. And the list of the 10 things that you gave us seem like very, very good ideas. I like the combination of, the combination of having very discrete things like the documentation of things from each of their classes, but also opportunities for them to do reflection. When they're talking about their goals or their career goal, academic goals, as well as their career goals. I would really recommend that you be thinking about reflection and having them, maybe you already do this, having them reflect on what they learned in each of their classes. And this may actually be a way to get faculty engaged. I think faculty want to know, not only is this a place for students to deposit things, but it's also a place for them to actually develop the skills and thinking about what they've learned in each of those courses. I agree, Tracy, that having lots of showcase is very helpful. Really, that was 3 minutes?
Yes.
And many people aren't aware that one of the deadliest sharks in the ocean is the mako shark. But we have here today the Miko shark. Miko, you are last up.
Well, thank you. Very good ideas. I really think that you have something very substantial here, very important. When you asked if we thought that the template was right, I believe yes. However, I recommend that you also provide flexibility for those who don't want to use the template. Many people stop doing things because of the lack of where to get started. So the template adds lots of value and will help them face that resistance. But also other people think that the template it's against creativity and it's telling them exactly what to do, which is not the case. I don't think that's the case. So making sure that they understand that they also have the freedom to take another route, it's very important. In terms of how to convince faculty, I believe that the sooner you start having success stories with the students, the better off you're going to be. One of the things that I do is do showcases. I'm a huge fan of showcases. And actually last semester, I organized a showcase for beginners. So you don't have to necessarily have a showcase later on when everybody's a senior and they have developed their e-portfolios. You can start with something minor, smaller, just to start a conversation and for people to see specifically what's an e-portfolio about and how excited students get with an e-portfolio. And the last piece that I wanted to add is that make sure that you also offer an opportunity for students to do a e-portfolio journey that is self-directed. Because if you leave it only to the faculty and only a couple of faculty in some courses are doing it, what happens if the students want to have that interest on their own? So I believe you should have some resources in place for the students to also take the initiative and on their own continue the journey.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I really appreciate the feedback. Some of the things that we are doing, we are working with student services where that we're reaching the students as well, that we're going into the different clubs and training students to actually use the e-portfolio. And we are doing training with faculty, and we do share with them how that they can be creative in capturing things from their classes that's important to them. But I really love the feedback, and thank you guys again.
And I saw, if we have a few minutes, there are some questions in the chat that are directed for you, Dr. Cannon. So Christina put that she loves a good template to scaffold the process of starting with portfolios so that students aren't in front of a blank screen. Is it possible that students can still make changes and bring in their own personality? So echoing a little bit of what Miko mentioned, but maybe the middle ground, rather than it's all or nothing, can they modify the template?
Well, the template is kind of set, but students can incorporate images. They can attach projects they've done outside of what the instructor asked them to post in there. So there is a little flexibility, but the template is kind of designed where those 10 things are listed. But students are being very creative because they can attach their own background images. They can attach images of everything that they post. I actually had a student last semester to post a PowerPoint that described her. So to me, when companies actually take a look at her documents, then from there, they can view her PowerPoint and learn more about her as well. So there is some flexibility, but not a great deal. But flexibility do come with them posting their information.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions from our other fish in the sea or anyone else who's got some ideas or thoughts to share with Dr. Cannon and Gracie from TCC?
So I had a quick question, Dr. Cannon. I'm
Mhm.
curious about, like, how do you see the portfolio relate to other representations of who they are, such as a LinkedIn profile or the resume that they might create? And where do you see the potential connections?
Okay, so that's a really good question. Although the e-portfolio is through Portfolium and it's attached to Canvas, this can follow them beyond being here at TCC, but they can also link their Facebook page to it. They could share the link with anybody they like. They can also link it to their Instagram pages. All of those features are available. So students have that option to link it to their other social media, or either to say, no, I'm just going to work on me and then come back and share. Another good thing is that they can share this with another college that they're potentially planning on going to. So there is options for them to be able to link it to their other social media.
Great. Great. That's wonderful to hear. And I just want to let all the presenters know that, you know, there's some great suggestions, links happening in the chat. We'll be sure to capture those and make those available to all of our presenters, everyone here today, so that you can follow up on some of those resources. Thank you so much, Dr. Cannon.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Does that bring us to our next pitch?
I think
It
so.
does. Our next pitch is by Sarah Imran and Yifei Wang from Mount Royal University. They don't intend to make waves, but may just have a jaws-dropping idea to share with their pitch. Sarah and Yifei, your suspense-filled 3 minutes with our sharks start now.
Thanks so much, Kevin. I think I'll do most of talking and then check with Yifei if she has anything to add. So we are from Mount Royal University, liberal arts university. We have about 15,000 students here and offer 38 different majors. Both Yifei and I work in a centralized department called Career Services, and our e-career portfolio will be a tool and a service available to all students across all faculties. So from nurses to accountants to anthropology majors and everyone in between. And that's our challenge. And that's where we would love some advice and help and support from this group. 12 degrees, 38 majors. Our e-career portfolio will provide each student with an experiential record. We're working with our registrar to ensure that record is very accurate. The framework we're using, it includes NACE's career competencies. So there's 8 of them, and that's how we track the good work done. And we attribute hours with the help of our faculty friends so that each project is tied to an actual competency that then can be articulated to our wonderful employers that are eager to hire our students. We're also tracking everything through CWIL, which is our Cooperative Education and Work Integrated Learning Association here in Canada. And they have 9 types of work integrated learning, from internships down to mandatory professional practice. So these are frameworks that we've integrated. Our biggest challenge is how do we create something that is consistent across different majors, but also interesting to very diverse students we serve, diverse even from standpoint of majors they've chosen. In addition to experiential record, we are platform agnostic. So a student can leverage the record, leverage the platform where this data is captured for them, but then build their own, whether it's LinkedIn or Wix, or Scribd or anything they can create. We have broadcast major, they might do a video, a movie about themselves. We really don't want to tell students which platform, but we do want some sort of consistent approach so that we're not disengaging students because there isn't enough structure. So our question today is, how do we design an e-career portfolio that will be used for career transition out of university? Yifei, is there anything you want to add?
I think it's fine. Yeah, thank you, Sarah.
Great. Well, thank you, Sarah and Yifei. Sharks, with Mount Royal University being in Alberta, Canada, this pitch may have a pleasant maple flavor. So can you sink your teeth into an e-career portfolio, or does it sound fishy to you? Candace, we're back to you as first to start feeding on the pitch.
Okay, I love it, Kevin. This is a fabulous idea, and I think we're always talking about portfolios being used for career advancement and reflection on career processes, but I really like that you're having that as a focus, and I like that it integrates with frameworks that are important to you. In terms of designing a career e-portfolio, I guess my first recommendation would be that you start early. I know that as having a former career as a career counselor, we always want people to start early in thinking about their career. But I think especially with a career e-portfolio, that's going to be very important for them to be thinking about the competencies they're developing, reflecting on where they can learn the things that they want to learn. I think that's really, really important. I think connecting it in your classrooms, partnering with faculty, having them create assignments that they can use in their e-portfolios would also be very, very helpful. I want to give oh, I'm really bad at puns. I don't know what I want to give you, but a thumbs up on this idea. I'm going to swim towards it.
Excellent. Dorsal fin pointing north.
Yeah.
Next, we have Miko. Miko, it's your turn to take a bite.
Thank you. This is music to my ears because the work that I do with e-portfolios, it's more focused on the career side of things. I don't want to give myself self-promotion, but I'm sharing with you an article that I published in the International Journal of e-Portfolio, which basically studies the process of revamping learning e-portfolios into career e-portfolios. The most important thing that I say is not to think that they're separated. Actually, the learning e-portfolio, it's needed and it's a good foundation for the career e-portfolio. So this model and what I encourage you to do is to find ways in which at some point those learning e-portfolios evolve into becoming a career e-portfolios. There are a couple of tricks that you have to do in order to gain the interest of recruiters. It's not the same faculty looking at an e-portfolio than a hiring manager. So it's very important to keep that in mind. I also suggest that you start talking with faculty and telling them that if they start making connections between their assignments and career readiness, they start engaging in authentic, meaningful learning. That's very important because sometimes students don't want to do an assignment. They just believe it's a grade, an assignment, but faculty members telling them, hey, this very assignment can help you with these skills, and they can help them to put that in the e-portfolio or design a course with e-portfolios assessments that increases the interest of the students. So those are the main things, and good luck. I think this is fantastic and you're gonna do great. You can always reach out, if you want to have more conversations about that. Always happy to add more.
Tracy, did your fellow sharks leave enough for you to feast on? Is there 3 minutes enough for to take a bite out of this pitch?
Well, I think this pitch made a big splash, and that has attracted me to it as a shark. So careful, you don't want to splash too much, but I might take a bite out of you. But no, I think I want to echo my fellow sharks that this is a really smart idea. And it makes me think about at the University of Waterloo when we first integrated ePortfolios. We recognize the importance of getting faculty to ask students the question, how does what's happening in my class connect to work experiences that you've had either in co-op or internships, or perhaps even work that has happened is happening alongside their university study, or that they engaged in prior to coming to our campuses. And that made a massive difference because it prompted students to think about, oh, I'm allowed to connect my work to my my education, and it seems like a kind of obvious thing, but something simple that faculty can do without even having to change their courses substantially. I do think, and I was wondering whether you had co-curricular programming, career programming, perhaps, where you see students at different stages of their learning career, where you could have them come back to their portfolio development and sort of scaffold that through their programs. I echo Candace in that, sort of start early, getting students to think as they come in. And so maybe there's orientation or some other kinds of places where you could engage students and starting to think about how there is a connection between workplace and community and the academic community learning. And so it's a tricky question in terms of, platform agnostic, but, sort of templated or scaffolded for the students. And so I would encourage you to think carefully about what that framework could look like and how you're going to communicate it to students, and bring students on as partners, get them to vet that template, maybe have them doing some design work for you as volunteers, or perhaps there's a fund where you can hire some student assistants to test this out. I've done that on some of my other campuses, and that was really helpful to other students to sort of get a sense of, oh, okay, I see now what I'm supposed to be doing. And it was a really powerful learning experience for us in the curricular and co-curricular context to hear from students and figure out what was working and what wasn't working for them. But I love this idea. I think we need definitely more of the career portfolios. And I'll just lastly share that my daughter had the opportunity as a recent grad to listen and experience the whole ABLE conference, and said, I'm really annoyed that I didn't have an opportunity on my campus to build a portfolio. If only. And I'm like, well, your mother told you to. But anyway, so I think it's great that you're doing this. Students will really appreciate it as they move into their careers.
Fantastic, Sharks. And I can see there is some great feedback and some interesting questions in the chat. Working in no particular order, Brandy recommends kind of dovetailing off of what Tracy was just talking about in terms of having a consistent structure, even though you're using different tools. Brandy suggests, what if you used interview questions as inspiration for some of the ePortfolio prompts to get students comfortable answering interview style questions and think and seek out examples that then they could show during an interview. Yes, Tracy says dovetailing or intersecting fins. Good point. I'll leave that in the wake of your swimming. We had some questions about rubrics. So Don asked if you're also using the AAC&U, which is the Association of American Colleges and Universities, has what are called value rubrics in addition to the NACE. And I see nodding heads and a thumbs up. So it looks like yes is the answer to that, Don. And Don also asks about ESDC's Skills for Success. And Don, if you have a link for that, that would be great to pop in the chat. Christina asked, how do you support students when they're using various platforms on the technology side, especially for, let's say, returning students who may be challenged with different technologies they haven't used before, or first generation students who might be using their mobile devices as their only device to do some of this work? Do you have any ideas, Sarah or Yifei, about that?
We do. So we are developing 9 modules to support this work, starting as Candace suggested with first years. And then the modules will be delivered. Our plan is to have students recruited, student employees in our student led studio. And the student employees would be the ones that are as consultants supporting students, creating that welcoming, non-threatening environment and sharing ideas, and of course supported by us as staff. So the 9 modules as a starting point, I think, is where folks can find a bit of a learning environment, less threatening. Creativity could probably flow from there, it would be our hope. And that way, it also, back to Tracy's point, we have students actually in the center of this and co-creating with us and kind of gut checking everything that we're putting forward in front of the other students, right? I hope that answers the question.
Sounds like it. And then just keep going through all these great comments and questions. Christina loves the E in ePortfolios because you can repurpose the artifacts from one portfolio and put it in another to reframe that evidence for a different audience with a different reflection. And then our fellow MC, Pirate Helen, says, have you considered the potential engagement with alumni, given that alumni are often employers and interested in engaging with current students? Also, given that these are e-portfolios, it's possible to engage with alumni who aren't living in Calgary. So give you a chance to reply to that, Sarah, or Yifei.
I can comment on the alumni. So we are, our plan is to form an advisory group and attract all kinds of, it's just a handful of employers. And many of them, you're right, Helen, they wear two hats and they're so passionately invested into this type of work. They do mention, just like Tracy said, your daughter is right on the money. That's what we hear from alums or employers. They say, I wish I had this because it took me 5 years to navigate my actual real job that I loved and enjoyed and thrived in. So I think we'll get help from folks. I think because it's so complex, it takes us 2 hours to explain what we're trying to do. So it really has to be kind of a longer commitment from alumni just to wrap their head around the complexities involved. That's been our biggest challenge. We spend an hour and people still say, I kind of get an idea what you're doing, but I don't understand what exactly you're hoping to do.
That's so interesting. Yeah. Go ahead, Candace.
I was just thinking, I've been seeing programs where they actually have alumni come in and see showcases of student portfolios and give feedback. And it's a great way to get initial alumni involved, with a very quick and easy way of doing that. And then you could engage them in different ways after they had participated in that showcase.
Fantastic. Well, there are more comments and questions. Dr. Cannon had make sure you get faculty to help test your pilot. And so that's always a good idea so that you don't get surprise attacks from down below. And then some great resources. Christina shared something from Dublin City University. And then Don put in the resource that he referenced earlier. So Sarah and Yifei, definitely check out the chat and see what other ideas you can get from it. Helen, MC Helen, shall we move on to our next fish?
Let's do it.
All right, our third pitch will be by Christina Hupner from Catalyst IT and the ABLE Digital Ethics Task Force. Christina is located down in New Zealand, where their rugby team is called the All Blacks. And in this particular instance, it's the Blacktip Reef Sharks. So we hope everything is going swimmingly down there. And with this pitch, she hopes to show she's no fish out of water. Christina, your 3 minutes begin now.
Thank you, Kevin. And Helen, if you can please switch the slides. Once upon a time, dangerous pirates roamed the high seas and were feared across the lanes. They fought, they pillaged, and many times they claimed immense treasures. When they came on shore, they repaired their ships, strengthened them, sewed new sails, and got ready for their next adventure. But most importantly, they drank and told their lore, which they often embellished greatly and thus became feared across the 7 seas, whether they were Sir Francis Drake, Blackbeard, Captain Kidd, and Bonnie and Mary Read. Now, like our sharks are not dangerous predatory animals, portfolio stories are less gruesome than pirate lore. Nevertheless, they are worth telling and learning from. That's why I want to propose a new ABLE project to learn who the people are in our community. Recently, I took the plunge and started a podcast to share in particular stories from the Mahara community. Today is actually the release of the first official episode of Create, Share, Engage, to which you find the QR code on this slide. But the ABLE community is much bigger. Typically, we get together once a year for the annual meeting and listen to presentations, participate in workshops, and maybe at some point see each other face to face again. Throughout the year, we may participate in other events and hear from people attending them. But there are so many other stories to share. Established researchers and practitioners, early career academics, and of course our learners. How can we amplify their voices? We can all learn from their reflections and insight. Why not through the incredibly popular medium of a podcast? In 2019, a survey in the US found that 3 out of 4 podcast consumers tuned in to educate themselves. For me, listening to a podcast frees me from the screen, and I can learn anywhere, including my bike commute to the office this morning. So my 3 questions for our sharks and the rest of the audience are: would you listen? How frequently would you like to hear from the community? And maybe most importantly, would anybody be keen to participate? Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Sharks, is her ePortfolio podcast idea a swell idea, or is it a gnarly wave? Mermaid Candace, we're back to you. Kick us off.
Well, I love this idea. So I hope that we can do it. It's one of those ideas that I think I would like to see academics engage in more, to share our ideas in broader audiences in ways that, just as you say, where we can do it as we're riding our bikes, as we're walking to work, as we're folding our laundry. Those are important times to get to be able to multitask. So yes, I would listen to it for sure. Probably like once a week would probably be a good place to start. And of course I would participate. It would be lovely. It would be really fun to be able to hear from, I think ePortfolios we now have a long history, and I think people that are new to ePortfolios often don't understand the history and who has come before and what we've learned. So I think that would be really helpful to be thinking about kind of, where we've come from and where we might go in the future. So I hope you do it. I think that technology frightens me, but I know, Christina, you are not frightened by the technology. So if anyone can help us do this, I know you can.
She's frightened of neither technology nor sharks.
True.
Which means, Tracy,
I'm a very frightening one right now.
Tracy, it's your turn to step up to the ePortfolio podcast microphone and let us know what you think.
Yeah, like Candace, I love this idea. It makes me so excited. I do think that it would be really helpful to curate a podcast, maybe potentially on different themes. So I'm as an historian, I completely am down with the history of portfolios theme. I think the work of the Digital Ethics Task Force gives us lots of space to have topics that are related to digital ethics to help people figure that out. Particularly the making ePortfolio labor visible. I think hearing from the folks who are maybe the unsung heroes of the portfolio community, the people who are on the ground doing the hard work of implementing portfolios in their context, not unlike the group of Shark Tank pitchers that are here today. And then, just sort of really thinking carefully about how we could curate that. I'm thinking again, like a series around the different kinds of practices that engage, a series on career. I think we could go in lots of different directions, but for sure, I think this is a fantastic idea. I'm grateful that someone wants to take it up, and I think you're perfectly positioned, floating in the water down there, to take this on.
Miko, Christina's podcast will be longer than 3 minutes, but that's unfortunately all the time you have for your feedback. It starts now.
Well, this is a great idea. I believe that anything that provides a platform for us to connect and to build a sense of community is great. I'm still learning. I like to know what other people are doing. And even if you believe that you're doing the right thing, there's always other things that people are doing that can enrich your experience and help you do better. So I will be all about it. I encourage you to maybe not make it too long. I think if you offer 30, 20 minutes, it's easier for people to find 20, 30 minutes in their day than an hour. And the same thing is true when I do meetings. I find, or webinars, I find that people find 30 minutes or 20 minutes easier than a whole hour. It's better if you do several for shorter amounts of time. And then the other thing is that I will add to the podcast some social media content if you want to, something shorter to promote the podcast. And eventually you can see that you're going to be dragging people who at first would not even think that the ePortfolio conversation was for them. So I think that combo of some TikTok, Instagram, tweets, plus the podcast is a fantastic idea. And of course, I will listen to the podcast and follow you, invite others, and participate in any way that I could. This is a great idea.
Thank you very much for all that feedback. And yeah, there's lots of ideas rolling around in my head now. And I hope we can make this an able project and can make it happen. And all the feedback has been so spot on. Around the timing, the episodes, the categories, and then also in particular that historical context and showing where we've been coming from. And so Helen at one point said kind of pioneers of the ePortfolio community, because in a way it can also be an oral history project that tells the story of the community. And we have everybody from the pioneers all the way to the emerging voices and our student voices, so that we can show the diversity that is within the community. Thank you.
Fantastic. And in addition to ideas rolling around in your head, they're also rolling around the chat. And so there's a link there to a podcast episode related to ePortfolios, so to give you ideas of what other folks are talking and recording. Also, Tracy has connecting the ePortfolio thinking to other podcasts. So in a connected idea there, maybe having kind of those crossover events that you see on television shows where stars from one show will show up on another show to help get traffic go back to both. Sarah says this is a great idea. You'll need super engaging guests to ensure followership and sustain interest from your listeners. So maybe start with the Prime Minister of New Zealand might be a good place to start. She's a great interview. I saw her on Stephen Colbert. And she may be very interested in an ePortfolio for, leaders of countries in the Southern Hemisphere. I'm going to open it up to see who else in our ocean of people here have ideas for Christina.
I just have a comment, Christina. We work with our students in the broadcast program, and often employers come to us with podcast ideas. You really need a good strategy and content plan before you even bring someone to help you. But I also want to pitch hiring a student remotely to ensure it's actually super awesome and it's a pleasant auditory experience as well. It's a huge learning curve, and if someone can help you, it just would be, you would then focus on the quality of the actual conversation and prepping for that.
Yes, that is a very good point, Sarah. And I've seen that once when I've recorded the first episodes for the new podcast here for work, that audio skills are a must-have from somebody on the team, and it can make a huge difference whether you want to listen even just for 20 minutes, or if you speed it up for maybe just 10 minutes, and therefore then make the best possible production out of it, so that it's more of a showcase rather than a work in progress. And that's why I kind of also been thinking who wants to participate, that it's more of a team effort rather than a single person, because of course you need, like we have here in Shark Tank as well, there's an MC, there's a moderator, so the person asking the questions, then there's the production team, you have a graphic designer who can create the whole brand to tie everything together. You have the audio engineer who supports things. Then there's the person to select the music, and also to make it more accessible, have somebody to transcribe the interviews and make that available, to follow links, to then also share things on social media. And TikTok certainly horrifies me. So I would not be the best person to try that out first. I'm more of the traditional tweeting or putting things on LinkedIn person. And therefore, if we have a team that brings all of these various skills together, then that's when we can have that well-rounded product that we can offer the community and engage people in it.
Christina, you mentioned so many different roles. I want to offer my services. I'm very good at helping to take breaks, and especially if they involve drinking tea and having snacks with that tea. Also, you mentioned music, and since our theme for the Shark Tank is sharks, I've put a link to shark-themed songs that you may or may not choose to use in your podcast, but I'm just putting it out there that it's an option.
Thank you, Kevin.
I'm going to open it up again to the group, and maybe with the few minutes we have left, we can also just have a general conversation about not just these 3 fantastic pitches, which were all delicious, but also just ideas that people are working on that they want people to know about. And so I will be quiet and see what folks have to say or ask.
I loved all the other pitches as well. It was really great to hear the ideas from Canada and also the United States. So Sarah, Jife, and Regina, and then Gracie in the background, because they do reflect really what we've been seeing in the portfolio community, and what we also tell the organizations that we support, and what has come out at the conference as well, that it is support, that students do want scaffolding, and that oftentimes they need it, because I mean, somehow we need to learn how to create a portfolio, and therefore templates are a very good way. And also making the portfolio activities authentic. Therefore, having a career portfolio is very good, or using it for work integrated learning activities, because then students really see the benefits for themselves, and it's not just for a grade and they forget about it, put it into the drawer, and maybe 3 years down the track, once they are actually in a profession where they need to create a portfolio or something portfolio like, that's when they realize, oh, actually what I did at uni, that was really good, I should have continued with that. But you're preparing them for those activities, and give them that impetus to become those lifelong learners, and to get used to not just the technology, but really more importantly, the concept of that reflective practitioner, and set them up well for their career post higher education. So thank you very much for sharing your ideas.
Yeah, I want to echo Christina's thoughts. I'm just so grateful to be part of a community where people can pitch their ideas and get feedback from one another. I think we really think that's what ABLE's all about, and really I'm always excited to hear about what's happening on different campuses and in different parts of the world, because the more we share, the better our implementations are going to be in our own context. So thank you so much for your pitches, and for you know, taking on e-portfolios in your context. I think it is a transformative practice when done well, and the work that you're doing is positioned really well for that to happen. So congratulations, and thank you so much for being here.
Maybe I just want to add, again, thank you everyone for participating today, especially to our judges as well, and of course our pitchers. Really interesting to see, again, I think we're coming to this more and more, this idea of the, you know, the career, you know, the education to work transition. I know, John, your work around micro-credentials and badges. I think a lot of that discussion is ongoing and actually becoming even more important, especially as we, you know, think about how we prepare our students for the future workforce or once they leave our institutions. Miko, Brandy, I think the work, the showcases that you guys have planned, also engaging employers as well as alumni, I think have been very important. Brandy, are you still working in, was it the health sciences? If I remember correctly, I know
Yes.
internship programs.
Yeah, the life and health sciences. It's mostly because we have the School of Medicine, so medicine,
Mhm.
dentistry, the health professions.
Mhm. So I think again, so when we think about that learning journey of our students, that trajectory from internships and then into postgraduate employment. Kevin, you asked the question about what am I thinking about or what are we thinking about? Well, I'm going to pop this into the chat. This was an article that I was in the New York Times that I saved that was about, and this relates, I think, to identity development, and I think has implications for the work that we do around do not bring your whole self to work. When we think about what aspects of your identity do you choose to share or not share in an e-portfolio or in any kind of public, professional, digital presence, what do you want to keep for yourself? The separation that is now blurred between, home and work because of, of this remote work and everything. The things that we're seeing around the great resignation and quiet quitting. I think those are a part of, as we're thinking about how do we prepare our students and how do we support them. I think these are all important issues to kind of think about and explore. So I look forward to continuing these conversations around all of these great ideas at ABLE, AAC&U, and other venues going forward.
I'll just comment, we are part of the AACU, I always mix up the name, Institute, and we work with Kathy, who is our coach, and it's been an incredible learning journey for us. But then the ABLE conference literally blew our socks off because we actually heard things that we thought were our ideas, but then other people were doing having studio consultants and calling it consultants when, and just understanding some of these intricate components that make it just better and ensure success or contribute to the success. So both Ife and I came from ABLE and we said, we need to spend 2 weeks just to processing everything we've learned. And today going in, we had a lot more confidence, but then again, so many good perspectives. So learning never ends, as someone put in the comment. And then we join our friends in Australia and listen in, and we come out of there thinking, oh my God, we need to clear our calendars. There's more stuff to read. So it's a very exciting work. And if we can figure out how to make it equally exciting for students so it catches on fire, I think we could create a movement, right? Creating that bridge between academia and the real world. And yes, we are real world as well, but we're our own bubble. So how can we get the same level of enthusiasm in our students? And I think that would really make eCareer Portfolio or ePortfolios part of normal education. And I see the value, how they could be such a powerful tool everywhere.
And yes, since Sarah spoke about Australia, so I do definitely want to take the time to pitch yet another idea, namely for everyone here and who's watching the recording to participate in the ePortfolio Forum that is coming up on the 26th and 27th of October. There is the possibility to participate in Melbourne, but if traveling across pirate-infested seas is not quite your thing yet, then you can certainly join in electronically via the various mediums and see people in rectangles. It's still going to be a wonderful experience, and similar to the ABLE annual meeting, it's a community-led conference, and there'll be fantastic presentations and also workshops.
So Kevin, do you want to wrap us up?
I can do that. Thank you all for your ideas. And we have to end this particular feeding frenzy, but there are more fish in the sea, as they say. So the sharks are going to digest all of these great ideas they've consumed, and we're going to hammer out a list of winners. But I know that there are a few bite-sized bits of information for everyone that we will continue connecting in different ways. So stay tuned for other events that'll come out this fall and in the winter or summer if you're south of the equator. And then I think that we are just want to do one last round of thanks for Dr. Cannon and her team, Sarah and Yifei, and then Christina. Again, having an international event with 3 different countries represented was an exciting way to have our Shark Tank. Did I leave anything out, Helen?
That's great. Thank you so much, Kevin. And thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.